1069 Boom. Straight up, real talk, unfiltered, and in your face. Jerry George on Boom 106.
We should just leave her to just deal with.
Because he's already calling Jerry, please, please.
I bet it's not him.
Won't be able to live this down. Excuse me, that's begging.
Yeah.
Manners, okay?
Good morning.
It's not begging.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, jeez.
And what are you betting?
Over here, it's like begging and all this kind of.
Don't bet for the hand to lose.
These people, you know.
Jerry. Don't worry, the two of them are, one is a renegade and one is a castaway.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You must not make those idiotic statements.
Jerry, I am a friend, okay? You need to stop that. I don't know what that's about. What idiotic statement? I am a friend.
Like the one you just made there.
Bless my heart. I don't know what you're speaking of. I know not what you speak.
Lord.
Take it away, baby doll. This is your favorite time in the morning. She afraid to talk. She don't want to
Jerry
talk.
boy, y'all gonna get people in trouble and all these things and all them.
Who's all you? I'm not with all you now. I am over here or you over there.
You called today a couple of minutes and then you're gone.
Yeah.
So Jerry, you know what start to?
If what?
You ever start to? You ever
You don't want to be trending?
You ever trend?
No, leave me alone. I good. I is good. Here now, today and tomorrow, the world, the final stages of the world disconnecting as nations is going to happen. And you hear me clearly, the world is disconnected. We spent a lot of time ensuring that the world came together with airlines and this and that. Over the next 2 weeks, the only link you probably have to depend on in that kind of connection is your internet access. They are unplugging the world. What do I mean? Is that they are shutting down as much of the air travel between nations as possible. This is intended to stop the flow of the virus because, like it or not, it is the aircraft that has taken the virus from Wuhan to St. Vincent. And so they're determined if they're going to flatten the curve, as they call it, then they have to reduce the number of flights going across the world. So from Caribbean Airlines, American Airlines, the airlines are shutting down. In some instances, the airports are shutting down. For example, Cheddy Jagan is closed for the next 2 weeks. That's in Guyana. Right through the system in Martinique, they're saying if you don't have a reason to be outside on the road, you actually have to get a signed document from your employer if you're going to be on the road. Same thing in San Francisco. They're talking about doing that in New York City. The world as we knew it 2 weeks ago completely changed. And it's been changed by a little thing called a virus that none of us can see with our naked eye. But we are going to face the serious consequences of this virus and what it is doing to our world. I don't know if you guys really... I don't think a lot of us, it's tough. It's the first time the entire world has found itself in this situation, so it's very hard to understand what this means. But imagine the world is trying hard to disconnect, to unravel airlines, connections, and things of that kind, to keep people in their homes. This is the world in which we are today, folks. And for the next 2 or so weeks, it looks like what we are going to have to live with. There's going to be a lot of cabin fever, I think. You guys know what's cabin fever?
Yes, body heat. A lot of babies will be born at the end of the year.
I said this with the lot of cabin.
Well, that's your way of putting it. They say wrong. They say wrong.
So we really in a tough place. Now, will this really impact on the movement of the virus? We'll have to wait to see. But one of the things that, for example, South Korea has said, the ability to test people on a very quick basis is one of the things that Korea has used, and I think the same with Taiwan. We have to still wait for our tests in St. Vincent and the Grenadines to go and come. But testing, they say, is vital to know. So you could go into a community, for example, and do tests. So you don't have to wait until the virus manifests itself, because by that time, other people are infected, you know? This is a really, really serious time that we are in. The economic impact is going to continue. I spoke, so as friends who listen to Early in the Morning on this ocean, wherever they are, as cruise ship workers, and they said to me, at least one of them said to me, no, two of them said to me that because they are on contract, the cruise line is basically going to keep them out at sea, because they will have to pay out their contract without anything. So they are going to keep them out at sea. I still see that we seem to be accepting cruise ships in St. Vincent, which...
What, really?
Oh, yes, the cruise ship in Becker right now that people in Becker have been complaining to me about. I don't know. We just have not had a very focused approach to this whole situation. When other countries have basically said no more cruise lines, we clearly have not said anything that definitive.
We jamming still.
Yes, and not only that, I checked and I understand this particular cruise line that is here is expected to go and come again.
Is this the Windjammer? Do you know?
No, it's not the Windjammer. It's a different kind of vessel. It's more of the regular vessel, but it's a smaller cruise line. But the thing is that I don't know. Barbados yesterday had a session in which they were saying why Barbados need to keep their borders open. What is wrong with us? If the people who we want to attract aren't coming, what is this business about keeping our borders open? And why is everybody going against what is the natural flow? I just don't get it. You know? I don't understand it, but it seems to be the way we are doing business, and it has the potential to hurt us. It really does have the potential to hurt us. But that's where we are. One final thing to talk about is, I don't know, you're probably taking your eyes off of what's going on in Ghana with elections. CARICOM sent down a team to help in the recount process. Individual challenge the rights of another outsider to come in and be engaged in the election process, and the matter is going to court on Friday, because they're saying according to Ghana's constitution, only the Electoral Commission is permitted to be a part of that and to control that. So the Mayor Motley sent group would have returned yesterday. The matter is going to go to court. We still are unsure what is really happening with the Ghanaian elections, and that those elections took place on the 2nd. What is even more important is that according to the Representation of the People Act, the election results should be declared 15 days after the election. We're outside of that 15-day period. So in a sense, Ghana is in a constitutional crisis kind of position. That's something we should keep our eyes on too. Don't know if there's anything else you want to hear.
This morning we got some information from around the world with what's happening. Well, you said it, that the world is going to cut off. Last week, Mr. Weeks, was it last week or early in the week, 2 weeks ago, was it 2 weeks ago? Mr. Weeks said that the world needs to shut down for 14 days. And in his opinion, that can be the solution to...
Yeah, they have always been suggesting it. They've always been suggesting, but nobody ever thought that they would actually take it to some kind of conclusion. And as I told you, I have some folks who run these think tanks in Europe, and they told me, they said, Jerry, by Thursday night the world will be disconnected. That's what we're talking about. I said, Jerry, by Thursday night the world will be disconnected. Wherever you are is where you're going to stay for the next 2 weeks. And I watched it happen. I kept paying attention. American Airlines cutting flights in Europe. Airlines cutting flights. But the scary bit about this is that they're saying that a lot of these airlines will not survive. They will not survive.
I read somewhere last night that the airline industry is asking for $50 billion.
And they offered 5.
And they offered 5. But I know, what about trade? Not trade in the sense of the economic side of trade, but trade in the sense of sustenance. Like, how are some of these countries going to survive?
Well, most of these countries have resources. United States is planning to give everybody $1,000 over the next, how long is it? I can't remember. I think I said yesterday morning in Ireland, they're going to give everybody 300 euros for the next how many weeks. And different countries have support mechanisms. Paris is one, support mechanisms for their people. So they have resources. It's countries like ours where when the ships don't come and the supermarkets go empty, we have to wonder. And I think one of the spectre that stares us straight in the face if this happens in our part and it's sustained is crime. We already have crime as it stands. When people get frightened and people get worried and panic about their existence, crime is something we have to look at. So we are charting, we are in some very, very rough waters. We don't even realize how rough they are as yet. I fear that maybe we don't have a compass or a course ahead of us in terms of how we're going to chart these waters, but we better find one fast.
Jerry, can you fact check this for me, please? Someone just sent this message on the WhatsApp machine. Jerry, not everyone is closing borders. UK and other European countries are still open for business as usual. They've advised their citizens to avoid non-essential travel, just planes and flying. Fact check that. What's the story with that? Is that the case?
I need to fact check these things. I follow these things on a minute-by-minute basis. Europe has closed its borders. The UK has basically closed its borders, especially to the United States. This is not no if and but. Just Google it. Just Google it. You know, people come and they tend to think, oh, everything is about things. I follow this stuff minute by minute. I have means into which, when something like that happens, I get the information. And that's a fact. The borders of Europe shut down at midday yesterday. Okay? I'm not asking anybody that, I'm saying it. So let us stop this business of trying to fact check. What is important is not that. What is important is what are we doing about the fact of this? That is what we need to pay attention to. What are we doing? So stop thinking that your job is to fact check Jerry because you have to find Jerry wrong. That's not the issue here. The issue is, what are we doing about the reality of this at the moment? That is what is important, you know. Now, whether I right or wrong, that is neither here nor there. There's a reality out there. And as I said to you, the whole purpose of what they're doing is to disconnect the world. They're unplugging the world. Put it a different way, I'll say this. It seems that somebody has an agenda to reboot the world. You know, like when it comes to get problems,
yeah.
Shut it down and hit it to reboot. I think this is exactly what is happening at the moment. Somebody's intention is, listen, let's reboot the world.
Well, someone told me the other day that who's benefiting from all of this is the planet Earth.
Because, well, for example, in Venice, they have not seen the water in the canals in Venice so clean and clear for years. And then there was another story in the U.S. of another situation where the earth seemed to have been rejoicing that there's a little less traffic on it.
Yes.
I posted this morning, somebody had a
low emissions and all those things.
Yeah, a live video in Paris, where in Paris, L'Arc de Triomphe, the Tower Eiffel, nothing's moving, nothing.
Was it you who had up the shot on your Facebook page with a live video from Times Square? Was it you? Someone had up a live video from Times Square, and I couldn't believe it.
I'm telling you, it's amazing. Listen, if you have ever been to Paris, the areas L'Arc de Triomphe and to the Eiffel Tower, I mean, you will struggle any hour of the day or night to get through those places. This morning, if you see, I'm watching it right as we speak. I'm seeing 2 vehicles and some people running on the sidewalk. That's it. This is a place that is normally a mob. You could hardly find your way. This is what is happening. So when the person who wants to fact check me is talking, the reality is nobody is moving. They do not want people to move. New York City has been told they're going to enforce this shelter something. What do you think it's called? I never remember the name of this thing. Shelter in place order, where you have to stay inside. If you can't move out, it matters whether a plane flying or not. Where you going? So we are in for some rough times, and I'm not sure that we understand what this means to us, especially here in the Caribbean. I'm not sure that we're getting the message at all. I'm not sure about that. And we had better get it fast. Go ahead, Daniel.
Jerry, someone on our WhatsApp is querying the prices of goods. This person is saying that he or she went to the supermarket to buy an item for $6.50 at the time, and when they returned, it was raised to $12.
Yeah, there's definitely price gouging that is going on. Unfortunately, it's the kind of time that that tempts people to do that. I hear the Prime Minister saying that he is going to deal with it. I'm not sure. The Prime Minister's approach is that he's going to take off the VAT and the other duties so that people don't have an excuse. You will know what the price is. Yes, that is one way. I see in New York, they actually find some businesses for that very same thing in New York. It's human nature. That kind of stuff is human nature and greed. Full stop. And so that is what we are seeing. How we will manage it. And the other thing about it, in a short space of time, there ain't going to be much left to even gouge about, because unless we start to get some goods rolling here in the next 3 weeks, we're going to be in deep, deep doo-doo. Are you hear me? If we don't have ships coming in here in the next 2-3 weeks, the shortage issue is going to become a very real thing. Mm-hmm. And do we know how we plan to treat with that?
Back to the lands.
Back to the land. But the land don't grow overnight.
No.
I listened to the Minister of Agriculture say, "Oh, we have that in place. You'll do this, this, and this." For some goods, you need 6 months. You need 18 months. It doesn't happen overnight. The fact that you have some plan in place to go back to the land ain't mean nothing.
Jerry, carefully don't scare people into going and stockpiling from today now, you know. Or they're already doing that.
Listen to me. I was in the supermarket last night. I saw some friends of mine. I said, buy more than you need. I told them straight up front, I said, you might think you have stuff to buy more than you need because you don't have any idea of what this is going to be going forward. And here's a time when probably people should get together and purchase together. And I'm not even pretending on that issue, because it can come to that. We haven't prepared ourselves. We haven't taken this thing seriously enough, I don't think. And therefore, people are going to suffer.
Okay. Okay, Jerry, I want to play something. I want you to keep listening offline. I want to play something, okay, that I think you'll find interesting. All right, straight up.
Thank you, boss. Straight up.
Catch you tomorrow morning. I'm going to use the Jerry segment with his music and everything to play this when he spoke about the world is going to change. Now, was this all predicted before? I'm going to play something that will may answer you. This is Bill Gates speaking in 2015.
Today, the greatest risk of global catastrophe doesn't look like this. Instead, it looks like this. If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus rather than a war. Not missiles, but microbes. Now, part of the reason for this is that we have invested a huge amount in nuclear deterrence, but we've actually invested very little in a system to stop an epidemic. We're not ready for the next epidemic. Let's look at Ebola. I'm sure all of you read about it in the newspaper. Lots of tough challenges. I followed it carefully through the case analysis tools we use to track polio eradication. And as you look at what went on, the problem wasn't that there was a system that didn't work well enough. The problem was that we didn't have a system at all. In fact, there are some pretty obvious key missing pieces. We didn't have a group of epidemiologists ready to go who would have gone, seen what the disease was, see how far it had spread. The case reports came in on paper. It was very delayed before they were put online, and they were extremely inaccurate. We didn't have a medical team ready to go. We didn't have a way of preparing people. Now, Médecins Sans Frontières did a great job orchestrating volunteers, but even so, we were far slower than we should have been getting the thousands of workers into these countries. And a large epidemic would require us to have hundreds of thousands of workers. There was no one there to look at treatment approaches, no one to look at the diagnostics, no one to figure out what tools should be used. As an example, we could have taken the blood of survivors, processed it, and put that plasma back in people to protect them. But that was never tried. So there was a lot that was missing, and these things are really a global failure. The WHO is funded to monitor epidemics, but not to do these things I talked about. Now in the movies, it's quite different. There's a group of handsome epidemiologists ready to go. They move in, they save the day, but that's just pure Hollywood. The failure to prepare could allow the next epidemic to be dramatically more devastating than Ebola. Let's look at the progression of Ebola over this year. About 10,000 people died, and nearly all were in the 3 West African countries. There's 3 reasons why it didn't spread more. The first is there was a lot of heroic work by the health workers. They found the people and they prevented more infections. The second is the nature of the virus. Ebola does not spread through the air. And by the time you're contagious, most people are so sick that they're bedridden. Third, it didn't get into many urban areas, and that was just luck. If it had gotten into a lot more urban areas, the case numbers would have been much larger. So next time, we might not be so lucky. You can have a virus where people feel well enough while they're infectious that they get on a plane or they go to a market. The source of the virus could be a natural epidemic like Ebola, or it could be bioterrorism. And so there are things that would literally make things 1,000 times worse. In fact, let's look at a model of a virus spread through the air like the Spanish flu back in 1918. So here's what would happen. It would spread throughout the world very, very quickly. And you can see there's over 30 million people die from that epidemic. So this is a serious problem. We should be concerned. But in fact, we can build a really good response system. We have the benefits of all the science and technology that we talk about here. We've got cell phones to get information from the public and get information out to them. We have satellite maps where we can see where people are and where they're moving. We have advances in biology that should dramatically change the turnaround time to look at a pathogen and be able to make drugs and vaccines that fit for that pathogen. So we can have tools, but those tools need to be put into an overall global health system, and we need preparedness. The best lessons, I think, on how to get prepared are, again, what we do for war. For soldiers, we have full-time waiting to go. We have reserves that can scale us up to large numbers. NATO has a mobile unit that can deploy very rapidly. NATO does a lot of war games to check, are people well-trained? Do they understand about fuel and logistics and the same radio frequencies? So they are absolutely ready to go. So those are the kinds of things we need to deal with an epidemic. What are the key pieces? First is we need strong health systems in poor countries. That's where mothers can give birth safely, kids can get all their vaccines, but also where we'll see the outbreak very early on. We need a medical reserve corps, lots of people who've got the training and background who are ready to go with the expertise. And then we need to pair those medical people with the military, taking advantage of the military's ability to move fast, do logistics, and secure areas. We need to do simulations, germ games, not war games, so that we see where the holes are. The last time a germ game was done in the United States was back in 2001, and it didn't go so well. So far, the score is germs 1, people 0. Finally, we need lots of advanced R&D in areas of vaccines and diagnostics. There are some big breakthroughs, like adeno-associated virus, that could work very, very quickly. Now, I don't have an exact budget for what this would cost, but I'm quite sure it's very modest compared to the potential harm. The World Bank estimates that if we have a worldwide flu epidemic, global wealth will go down by over $3 trillion, and we'd have millions and millions of deaths. These investments offer significant benefits beyond just being ready for the epidemic. The primary health care, the R&D, those things would reduce global health equity and make the world more just as well as more safe. So I think this should absolutely be a priority. There's no need to panic. We don't have to hoard cans of spaghetti or go down into the basement. But we need to get going because time is not on our side. In fact, if there's one positive thing that can come out of the Ebola epidemic, it's that it can serve as an early warning, a wake-up call to get ready. If we start now, we can be ready for the next epidemic. Thank you.
That's Bill Gates speaking in 2015. Did he predict all of this? We don't know. Straight up. Jerry George.
Straight up, real talk, unfiltered, and in your face. Jerry George on Boom 106. .1069 Boom.
God not sleep. You only get me in really. Only put in me in really. I'm budding. What I mean? What does that mean what Marshall was saying, the guys? I'm budding.
You performing for us?
I don't know. Maybe I
The
should.
concert series come early. Somebody calling you.
Wait. Oh, I don't know. On my phone. Good morning, caller. You live?
Good morning, Bing.
Good morning.
Oh, I shouldn't say Bing.
What should you say?
Mr. Idiot.
He laugh.
I'm laughing somewhere.
Hey, you laughing.
Oh, jeez.
Boy, they put you in a different Somebody put you in a different section now.
They love me. They love me. Don't worry about it. They love me.
You know, there was a song, a really moral song, in which they said, loving you is right. I don't want to be wrong. The woman was saying if she to marry to love a married man, and they said that is wrong. She don't want to be right. So you got wrong love too, you know, Bing. I just say that.
They love me. Don't worry about it. They love me.
Serious? You ever heard this? There is two things that Vincent John's afraid of. You ever heard that in life before?
I may have, baby. Don't have you? Tell us. Enlighten us.
The only two things Vincent John's afraid, you know. They say one is a bull cattle and the other is rain. They say a little bit of rain make up. All Vincent John run gone for look for cover. And if a bull cattle get rain tongue, everybody scatter. They will hug up an alligator or a crocodile. They will kiss up a snake. So the two things Vincent John were afraid of. So no wonder that everybody is trying their best to keep the thing out of their country. But we have open shop as usual. We have open borders as usual. But who can hear must see. And who knows from now what else will happen. And then, do you know, I strongly believe even if some top officials in St. Vincent get that thing on the Senate to sort in lab to test, and even though the lab and them recognize that it is positive, when they send back the thing to some areas, the announcement will be negative.
No. Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that. No. Don't say that about our professionals. No, don't say that.
I don't say. No. I didn't say here. I talk about general.
No, but do you really think that professional people do think something like that? For what call? For what reason?
If the lab send back and said positive, and the lab is the professionals, you know.
No, but who would give all the information to say it's negative?
Huh?
Who would give all the information to say it's negative?
Other people.
But why would people want to do that?
Some people, man to man, swan just.
No.
You don't know to trust.
No.
The art of pressure fail you.
No, Mr. Slider, I can't agree with you on that one. I can't.
You think some of those presidents or prime ministers throughout the area, right? If they test positive, the nation will know.
Slider. Morning.
They come on in, but don't know you.
No. At this time, we have to be responsible about what is we see or put out there, especially pertaining to Corona. You know, I am one that likes to think very, very, very wide, right?
I didn't know you were in the studio.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, Slider, we can't be on air where we advising people to do this and that and then preach doubt into their mind as to, you know, what's taking place with the official health releases, because that would be very irresponsible. And
but I don't say you all make some comment.
yeah, we just make some comments back.
Some comment and nobody don't critique or nobody.
You
You want to tell me what
epidemic? You know, it's a word epidemic.
That is why I'm saying that. Because what's up?
Pandemic.
Am I not? Am I not entitled to my belief and some of the thoughts that come to me?
Well, keep those crazy thoughts to yourself. Don't put them out in public.
Why you don't put out some of your thoughts?
Well, if I put out crazy ones, I'm wrong.
Huh?
If I put out crazy ones like what you're doing this morning, I'm wrong.
I understand why the Prime Minister blessed you with a new name yesterday.
That's all right. That's fine.
You understand?
That's fine. That's all right. You have a good day.
And I know you weren't ready to say that.
Oh, you've been on for almost 5 minutes now. I allow you to say what you wanted to say, even though you were not correct to say that.
Yeah. It amounted to garbage.
Man to man, swan just don't know how to chop.
All right, my brother. Thank you very much. Have a good day. I can't make it with Slider, eh? What can you do? You just gotta love him. You just gotta love him and hope for the best for him, man. Yeah.
This guy here, he at home. He don't go nowhere. So I don't know why he don't shut his damn mouth.
Hey, no.
Let be nice on the WhatsApp.
Yeah, please.
Somebody else calling you.
Yeah, hold it down, please. That's probably it. Good morning, caller, you live.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Miss Keezer Beach, a very honest woman, a woman of despicable character. She will never call into a press conference and tell the Prime Minister the result come back negative when it is positive. No, not Miss Keezer, the Chief Medical Officer. So a woman of despicable character, very honest and decent woman. Come on, man. Bring Barbados in a closer border now, don't know. They look at two things, right? They're looking at health and the economic situation, where people need salary, people need to work. So you have to look at these things. She agreed with the Prime Minister going to have the economic situation where they have to open their borders in order to keep some people employed and to keep the economy of the country flowing. Thanks, sir.
All right, my brother. Thank you very much. If you want to make your calls, 451-1069, you can send your voice notes to 455-1069 and your WhatsApp to 455-1069. We got some WhatsApp messages as well too, baby.
So somebody is saying, yes, there is a small cruise line in Beckway. And they're saying, you know what they're really doing to us people if they're wondering if their health doesn't count too. That's what that person said. Someone else said, I am sitting here in Heathrow Airport in the UK, waiting to pick up a family friend, and there are no signs of the airport shutting down. There are routine announcements of a few disrupted flights, so it's very disingenuous for Jerry to say the UK and Europe borders are closed. And this person is saying it's fake news. Italy and Spain is on lockdown, but the rest of Europe airports are open as normal. Somebody said, Bing, just do what you do best and talk the things how it is. You might lose a little friends, but at least your heart will be clear. You're losing friends?
I'm losing friends.
Oh, Another message said, a caller said Miss Keezer has despicable.
Yeah, who said that? Oh, the last caller. The last caller.
He meant impeccable.
Yes. The last caller. He said despicable, but he meant impeccable character. And I saw someone said it to my phone as well, and I was wondering what was that about. Yes. Thank you for the clarification. We didn't say it. Someone on the WhatsApp said it. Yeah, he meant impeccable character. There's another one there.
Somebody said, hey, morning, I heard the PM addressing Dr. Beach as Simone, and that was not nice.
Oh, come on. Oh my goodness gracious.
Somebody says Slider is so crazy with his politics. Some people don't have a level of maturity for this type of conversation. Somebody else said, oh, morning, Eli. He's saying that things are really terrible in Canada. That's where he is. There's no sugar, no flour, no milk, etc. And Canada is now in a state of emergency.
Wow.
Only Canadian citizens and permanent residents are allowed in Canada.
Yeah, and I know about what happened in Canada, for sure. They actually shut down all the business places. They are not to leave home at all.
Really?
At all. They are not to leave home. The only people that are leaving home are the people that are getting out because they need to travel.
Right.
Or, as Dan said, the people that actually doing those different emergency services.
All right, guys, we got to say good morning to Leno.
Morning, Leno.
Hi. She's locking on with us every day. Hold on, there's one more here. I'm trying to find it back. Diego, somebody said they're not getting us on TuneIn.
We are up on TuneIn. I just checked it. We are.
All right, there's a voice note there from your friend.
About the TuneIn stuff. Let me clarify the TuneIn stuff. Quick.
Hey, Bing.
Go ahead, Diego.
What's happening? Not all devices are going to be workable to tune in due to different devices subscribing to different streaming platforms. I'm not sure what device you're listening on, but if you can't get tuned in, try Radio Garden. You can also try us on Caribbean Radio. So you could Google Caribbean Radio. I think it's caribbeanradio.net. So Radio Garden is open to everybody.
But TuneIn is up. You can just refresh your browser.
You see, they're like different phones, different devices. They actually disabling certain apps. So they may have to refer to a different app.
All right, okay. Let's get another voice.
Hey, Bing. I could not help but hear something that Mr. Weeks said when he used the name of Nice Radio. And I am reminded, mindful of a piece of propaganda going around that you, Bing, now have become an extension of Nice Radio.
Really?
Because you are now being seen as a purveyor of New Democratic Party policies.
Really?
And so you have now come under the political umbrella of the NDP.
whoever's saying that, they need to be careful where they put me.
In terms of our political ecosystem in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. No one can be a political agnostic in St. Vincent and the Grenadines because of the rampant tribalism, political tribalism that exists in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I've argued it before that where we are in terms of how divisive our politics is, this divisiveness is the progeny of the Prime Minister. He is the one who created it. He is the one who sustains it. And so, if you dare criticize the Prime Minister and or his government, you are automatically a supporter of the New Democratic Party. I have made no bones, have made no secret of the fact that I have been a long-term supporter of the NDP, and I would continue to support the NDP because I think the New Democratic Party is the way to go in order to change things drastically in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. However, I cannot say what your political allegiance is, Bing. So here it is. The propaganda is running wild.
Well, you know, seriously, guys, you know, I am wary of, and what the voice note said there, you know, I was inundated yesterday with calls, with people telling me what was said, what wasn't said, what I'm branded. I am apparently now a neophyte of the NDP. What? I've gone back to my NDP moorings. You know, Boom is an extension of Nice Radio. I mean, for heaven's sake, how? How did Boom become an extension of the NDP and an arm of Nice Radio? How? Because what? And everybody all of a sudden know where I am. Because they will probably be in the polling station in the booth with me when I'm going to vote. They will probably not be there looking at how I vote and where I cast my vote. I have never been so inundated with calls. And I deliberately stayed away from it this morning because I didn't want to get into it. Deliberately. And maybe I shouldn't get into it now. You know, let me just back off and leave that alone now, Because I will start to cuss and pass a comment.
Good morning. Canada is not in a state of emergency. There are two provinces that are in a state of emergency, Alberta and Ontario. And there's milk. And there are food items in the supermarkets and so on, not as abundantly as before, not as well stocked, because people are, panic buying from my observation. But I was able to get milk yesterday, and I was surprised that the supermarket I went to, Alongo's, was well stocked, but there was no chicken parts. No chicken parts whatsoever. Most of the fish is gone and that sort of stuff. But there's still fruits and vegetables and so forth. There was no rice. Most of the pasta is gone. But otherwise, that one I went to was well stocked. Okay? But Canada is definitely not in a state of emergency.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to have Pastor Richards on with us right here on OMG in the Morning.
We lighten up the morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. OMG in the Morning. Pastor Richards on OMG.
Are we standing by to have Dr. Richards with us? He should be calling us anytime now. Yeah, let's stand by for that.
Good morning, and right now I believe we're being joined by Pastor Richards.
Hey, good morning. Good morning to everyone in
Pastor.
the
How are
studio.
you?
Good morning, Doc.
Hey, good morning, Bing, and good morning, Diego. Morning, my friend. I'm hale and hearty, no dry cough and headaches and all this.
You just have to put that in there, yeah?
Give God thanks, give God thanks. And all those in St. Vincent are celebrating good health. Give God thanks. The people elsewhere who are in worse jeopardy than we are, so. This morning, I want to continue. Well, yesterday I spoke quite a bit about, what did I talk about yesterday? How seriously are we taking this thing and where we getting our cues as to how we should respond. So that's what I spoke about yesterday. In fact, after I came off the radio yesterday, I also spent some time debunking a lot of myths that were being passed around. I actually got a little bit angry and put some posts up. So if my voice, and those of you who got my messaging, if my voice sounded a little bit terse or angry, it's because maybe I'm human and I was a little bit fed up of false news. One which really incensed me yesterday was the piece about the agricultural situation or supermarket situation or food situation in St. Vincent. People take the time to write up these things, to put them together, how you should rush now and buy because X. And they actually mention which supermarkets were facing shortages and how you should stock up on gas and all this garbage. Somebody messaged me from Trinidad and said we have 19. This is false news. So don't get alarmed. Said we have 19 cases. I don't know if it was a joke, but it sounded serious. We have 19 cases. And they're like, Pastor, is it true we have 19 cases? I'm like, where are you getting that from? She said, well, I was talking to a woman, because she's not in touch with it. Well, talking to some woman who said that we have COVID-19 in St. Vincent. And it's like stupid things like this. People don't have common sense. 19, that's 2019. It doesn't mean 19 cases, but then somebody run with that 19. Bad news is like, I tell you already, bad news has wings and good news hobbles on crutches. Remember that phrase. That's my quote. And false information really takes off, particularly in this dimension of time and in this environment. Every little news. Somebody, you can't even shake black pepper and sneeze. Because if you only shake black pepper and sneeze, everybody's scattering from around you. You have the virus. So everything is interpreted through new lens. Every little health issue and every little health concern, people are especially jumpy these days. And because they are jumpy, when people are jumpy, they will tend to overreact. And so I put out a lot of posts yesterday in relation to that we don't need to be over dramatic. We need to be sage and we need to follow scientific information. This is something I've been saying all along. Be very careful and be very selective with the news that you listen to. Who do you listen to? Who do you trust? And one of the other things that I will be quick to say here, by way of being instructive to our nation, is that when people don't have all of the facts, they tend to fill the void with their own speculations and their own messages and their own rumors. Let me say that again. And which is why sometimes I'm sympathetic. People out there, they don't know what to believe. So anything that comes to them, they're passing it on because they're hungry for information. And by virtue of that, they receive information. And it is false, but they pass it on because they're hungry for information. So when you don't, in this kind of dilemma, when you don't consistently and constantly feed people with reliable facts, repeat yourself over and over and keep your messaging out there, then people fill whatever void that is created. People fill it with their own speculations and messages. So we have to be very careful. Me, in my own position right now, I would like, I don't want to be too reactionary, as I fear that some of the responses might be highly reactionary. Understandably so. But me now, and I'm only speaking to me, I would like more information. I would actually today, rather than speculate and give guidance, etc., I'd much rather ask some questions. Now, I know that there are some people who are in the habit of recording the program, so this time around, I would strongly advise that you do so. And if you're not in the habit of recording this program, you might want to do so, because I want to make clear these questions. And Diego and Bing and Daniel, as I ask these questions, if you think that you need to clarify, because the listeners are not going to call in immediately, if you think you need to interject and help to clarify for the sake of the audience, or anything I say that you might want clarification for the sake of the audience, you may do so. But right after 9, after Jerry came off, I was outside getting some coffee. Then I said, you know what, let me write down 10 questions that are on my mind for me, that would guide my reaction. Please understand that, okay? Now, the first one concerns the behavior, what the epidemiologists would study as the outbreak. How is it occurring? And I have a question in relation to that. What is the comparative incidence, please, if somebody can answer me, or they have the answer? What is the comparative incidence of this COVID-19 virus between, now hear me, the latitudes of 20 degrees north and 20 degrees south? And as I say, comparative statistics, comparative analysis, if you compare that with extratropical regions, those that are above or north of 20 degrees, or those that are south of 20 degrees. Well, those that are north of 20 degrees at this time of the year is a very, very cold time. And those that are 20 degrees south is a much warmer time. But what's the behavior like? Is there any difference at all? And that is something, believe it or not, that is something that maybe there's somebody out there who knows, but I don't know. But that matters to me if the epidemiologists and those who are tracking this are saying that there's a higher incidence in the extra 20-degree window, north of 20 degrees. Also, the second thing which I think is relevant, which is a second and separate question, what is I'm going to use the word community spread, because this is significant in our reaction, where there is a high rate of community spread as compared to where there is a low rate of community spread, as compared to where there is zero rate of community spread. Hear me and hear me well. So what is the comparative analysis or comparative rate of community spread between that window of 20 degrees north, 20 degrees south, as compared to community spread, say, in some country that is north of 20, or some state that is north of 20 degrees north? Because, I mean, it makes a difference to me if, and again, I'm going to nuance community spread. If somebody comes into this tropical window, as has happened, Jamaica's had, like, I can't remember now, just the other day was 5 cases. It's probably more imported mostly from the UK. In fact, most of the occurrences in the Caribbean region here are imported cases, so that would be at the stage 1, where somebody comes into your environment carrying and showing and being tested positive. Now, that has happened everywhere. We have seen that happen in England and multiplied rapidly. We have seen that happen in the US, multiplied rapidly. Last night I heard it was 5,000 headed up towards 6,000 cases. So it began with 1, like I said last week, it begins with 1. But as it begins with 1, in some cases, is there a higher rate, please hear me well, is there a higher rate of community spread as opposed to other places where there is zero rate of community spread? Or why is it, and I'm just asking questions, why is it that there's a higher rate of community spread in certain extratropical regions as opposed to tropical regions? Why? And then the third question that I'm asking, please understand I'm only asking questions today, and the answers will guide my reaction. The third question I want to ask is the virus behavior? This is a significant question too. is the virus behaving differently, or is behaving in the same manner comparatively in the 2020 window, 20 degrees north and 20 degrees south. I mean, because that's the job of the epidemiologist to track. One of their roles concerns disease surveillance. I mentioned that yesterday. And the day before that, their systematic approach, getting the data and correlating and spitting out and saying, well, this is the case. So they're in position to tell you. They're in position to tell you, and we need to know. And policy should be based on this. Is the virus behaving in the same manner north of 20 degrees latitude? It's 23 degrees, right? But let's just 20 for convenience. Is the virus behaving in the same manner? And what about those countries within the 2020 window? Is the virus behaving in the same manner as it is behaving north? Because if it is behaving in the same manner, then you have to take the same type of approach. Come on. I mean, any rocket science. But if the virus, if this is one type of behavior, and the rate of transmission, community spread, north of 20 degrees, but it is absolutely a different ball game in the 2020 window. Then the measures, the different game and different scenarios would require, different approaches. So it's not a cookie-cut homogeneous, I use that word deliberately, homogeneous approach. You really got to figure out behavior, and epidemiologists know this, that the behavior and responses would be dependent on what, just like with the flu, dependent on what the current local scenario is. So this is something that is not, I'm pulling out of the air. This is something that is fundamental that we have to pattern. For example, one of the questions that I ask is this, how are the patterns of the COVID-19? Listen, mimicking the pattern of the flu virus, and by that I mean specifically not the makeup of the disease itself, but in terms of its community transmission. The flu that I know of, right, and the various strains of the flu. I know that the pattern is to stay as not exclusively, but predominantly north of 20 degrees latitude. I mean, that is empirically proven. The incidences of flu, the outbreak, the spread, and even the deaths related to the flu. There are thousands of deaths related to the flu, but these are significantly higher and predominantly in the north of 20 degrees. These are just empirical facts. So I'm asking, hear me, is the COVID-19 exhibiting the same pattern? For example, I mean, let me drive this point home. We don't really give, like, if I'm in the, which I spent some time, I lived in Texas for a little bit, you get your flu shots here. Every flu season, you get your shots as winter is coming on. But here in St. Vincent, we don't do that. Why? And the reason is that the behavior and the patterns are, with respect to the flu and the severity of it, the outbreak and transmission is much more dramatic and extreme north of 20 degrees than it is within the 2020 window. Hence my question, is the COVID-19 mimicking that kind of behavior? So should there be more drastic measures where the situation is more drastic and severe? I'm just asking. I'm asking. I have a few more questions if time would permit.
You got 4 minutes, so you can use that time.
Okay, then. All right, let me. This is going to be provocative, but it's only a question. Where are we getting the bulk of our information related to the virus? I know where I am getting the bulk of my information. I am getting the bulk of my information. I follow extra-regional news a lot. So I'm getting the bulk of my information from extra-regional sources who are dependent on specialists and dependent on people who are attuned to their situation, and they're basically given a coverage of how, this is what, for me, okay, this is for me. They're giving a coverage based on how the virus is affecting their region. And their measures, their countermeasures, their approaches, their understanding, their tracking, all of it, their responses, the community responses, everything is generated and driven within that environment. And I am exterior, I am outside of that environment. But I am almost caught up in their panic and in their responses. And so we get, I get a lot of my news from that vein. And even the scientists who are making prescriptions, who are recommending treatment, a lot of it is directed. A lot of it is directed towards that particular extra 2020 window scenario, and rightly so. But we cannot treat, and I have to be very careful that I cannot treat this wall as an homogeneous whole, where everything that is put out by WHO can be considered to be universally applicable. And what are the nuances between WHO, by the way? Just putting this out there, WHO and PAHO, because WHO will speak to a different audience than PAHO would specifically speak to. Just check that out. So these are the kind of things I am trying to nuance. There's a lot of questions, but one last one. And is it possible that within the 2020 window, that the biggest impact of this whole situation, is it possible that the biggest impact will be severe economic setback rather than health jeopardy? Is it possible to consider that and everybody's going to get hit by this thing, mind you, but is it possible that given certain nuances, et cetera, that it is possible that our biggest setback is going to be economic rather than health? And if that is the case, where should the efforts in mitigation be? If that is the case, what are you going to mitigate or seek to put most of your resources towards mitigation? So that's just something for us to consider. I am in a questioning mood today, and if people give me answers, I'll be happy to follow, because these are things I would like to know. All right?
Okay.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you very much, Pastor. Appreciate that this morning again.
Cool.
Another great one. Thank you very much. All right, cool. And that's it this morning. This is where we wrap it up. We got any other? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is where we wrap it up, guys. Anything else you guys want to add before we go?
A number of persons from Canada are saying that it's only certain
Alberta
places.
and the other.
I can't get this thing to work. Yeah, so they're saying that it's not the entire Canada that has shut down, right? And for them, they are not experiencing the shortage as other persons are. The person who was speaking about the shortages, he previously messaged and said that he's speaking about from Ontario.
From his area.
Right, so I just wanted to clarify that on his behalf.
Okay. All right, well, that's it. Until tomorrow morning.
We lighten up the morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Doing it. OMG in the morning.